so we can have it on. We have launched our second volume book, The Business Playbook, and it's from Built for Breakthrough because these women are just incredible. And I am so, so excited for this launch of this book. And I have, you know, six amazing ladies with me here today, besides myself. And we're going to go through and talk about the book and understand why this book was so important to each one of you. And I feel so honored that all of you are here with me today. You're all incredible women. I always love doing this project because each one of your stories are just outstanding. I can't say more than that. I don't have words for it. And I feel so proud to be with each one of you and know each one of you and your story as well. So, all right, so let's get started. I'm just going to call on kind of each one of you to answer some of these questions. And the first question that I have is in one sentence, what's the threshold your chapter is built around? So Devon, since you're on my screen next to me, can you want to go first?
Sure. The
So
threshold was,
first, before
oh,
you answer the question, sorry. I'm gonna stop here. Give everybody your name and a little bit about your company and what you do.
sure. Okay, so I'm Devon Hankins. I am the founder and CEO of Ascension Strategies. We are a performance transformation firm. We have two practices that are integrated. We do strategic performance coaching and strategic performance consulting. And at the end of the day, we build capability in leaders and provide support for building organizational capability. So that's what we do. Um, so the threshold that uh, we were talking about, for me, that threshold was understanding that I had to change, that I had reached a point where uh, staying the same, not uh, addressing the landscape that was changing underneath my feet, uh, and it was becoming more painful to stay where I was rather than taking the chance to actually, ironically, set boundaries in order for me to actually grow. So I think that was the threshold piece, is understanding that I had reached a point of you've got to change. So
Oh, beautiful. So, we're going to go ahead and go with you, Nicole. Introduce yourself and tell us what your threshold was.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Davidson from Two Palms Accounting and Tax Solutions, also owner of Owl Tax Strategies. My threshold was seeing how vulnerable business owners are when they don't know how to navigate taxes. When they fall for bad online advice or get ghosted by a tax preparer, they feel completely helpless. And I realized that they didn't just need someone to file a return, they need an anchor to help them get their confidence back, which is why I built a whole branch of my firm just to defend them.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, Jessica, we're with you. Tell us what your threshold is.
It's an honor to be here, everyone. My name is Jessica Winesep. I like to say I build and create in two worlds. Physical world, I actually build houses as a general contractor in Washington, D.C. And then I like to say I build in the spiritual world, helping people connect internally with what they're really called to do on a deeper purpose and calling. And so my threshold is actually I built a life on survival and what looked good, working for the government, and I didn't, on a deeper level, feel fulfilled. And then I started living from a place of not just from my mind and what looks good outwardly. but what was truly calling me on the inside and living from that deeper calling. And so instead of what you had to do with survival to what you get to do, like it's an honor and a calling and a purpose of, moving forward.
Beautifully said. Sandy, so what is your threshold?
Thanks for asking that question. I didn't think about it until I started listening to these ladies, what my threshold was. And I'm Sandy Webster, and my company's Sandy Webster LLC. And I help people, especially business owners, create their advisory boards. So my threshold is to ask. I find that most people don't have an advisory board because we're just afraid to ask. We're afraid to ask for help. I don't know if it makes you feel silly or that you don't know what you're doing if you ask for help, but I can say I've never had that problem. I will ask for help in a minute. I think because, as I said in the book, I started having an advisory board very early in my life. And it just became natural for me to ask people for the things that I want. All they can say is no. And then I just move on to the next person until I get a yes. So my threshold was to ask.
Beautiful. Shannon,
Mm.
tell us your threshold.
I'm Dr. Shannon, and I own Empowered Wellness Group, and my business is ND Family Support. My threshold was realizing that everybody could tell me what was wrong with my child, but none of them could tell me what was going on underneath it. They just kept wanting to point at behavior and put me on waiting lists and lots of referrals. And you get told there's a 1.5 year waiting list after you just filled out 25 pages of medical questions you barely understood. And it was too much, way too much. So
Beautiful. Melanie, tell me your threshold.
Well, I'm Melanie Lipsy, and I own Royal Financial. And my threshold was coming from the beauty world. So I owned a beauty day spa for 25 plus years and loved it. But the economy and a lovely pandemic totally rearranged that entire situation. It was not fun. But here we are. And so I get to help people with their finances and instead of making you beautiful on the inside, I get to make your financial wallet beautiful. So that's what I've been doing. And because I got tired of hearing people complain about, I don't have enough money for my massage or facial after the pandemic. And it was just really difficult. So no one's going to come save me financially because I was a business owner. And so I had to save myself. And so I helped others. And that's what I do.
I love that. Thank you all. I'm so excited. And just in case you want to know my threshold, it was all about and I was feeling that, even though I had a successful business and things were going well, I felt like there was something missing. And I wasn't getting deep enough into kind of questions and answers for my clients. So I wouldn't say I decided to take a step back, but more I decided to go deep into the matter. And that's why I'm in the process of doing my PhD to look at this a lot deeper. And just news for everybody, I am definitely now it's written. Yay, it's written. So it's moving forward, moving forward. Hopefully by the end of the year, it'll all be done. Okay, going on to the next, thank you. Going on to the next question. I'm going to go with you, Devon, again. If you had to describe your chapter to someone who'll never read the book, what would you say?
So my chapter is about having the courage to go through the journey of unbecoming in order to find self-mastery. And I think that thematically, when you think about the title of my chapter, A Fool's Journey, it was just trusting that change was happening and you lean into change rather than bracing uh, against it. And that's how, when it comes to the firm that exists today, not only is our tagline, but it's our enterprise model for how the firm operates, but it's all about owning your evolution. And we always say to our clients, rather than life happening to you, we want you to happen to life. And that's what my chapter is about.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, Nicole.
So my chapter exposes the hidden cost of the fast and cheap tax prep industry that most people don't see until it's too late. It's a guide for business owners who feel lost in the dark, showing them how to take back control of their finances and build a fortress around their business instead of chasing viral online tax hacks.
Wonderful. Very important. All right, Jessica, tell us.
My chapter is about stop abandoning yourself, whether it's a relationship, a job, and anything that you have outgrown. If you are feeling a lot of stress in it and it's not feeling right, you have to force a lot of things. It's about moving to a place of flow. Sometimes what looks successful on paper or outwardly doesn't really feel true to what's inside, and it's about listening to our inner voice, connecting inside to what feels right.
Beautiful. Dr. Sandy.
So my chapter is on the power of advisory board, and I think it teaches business owners, particularly, or I'd have to make it broader than business owners and anyone who want to surround themselves with the right people to help them make smarter decisions and to grow their companies if they're business owners. I think that drawing from my real world entrepreneurial experience, the chapter shows that an advisory board is more than a group of people who offer opinions to you. It's more of a strategic asset that can really provide expertise, the accountability, the connections, and an outside perspective when an owner or someone needs it most. So you can have a personal board as well. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurial. That's what I would say to them.
Beautiful. Dr. Shannon.
My chapter is about the story of going from being a desperate mother, searching for answers, experts, programs, medication, solutions, to realizing that behavior is communication. It starts with the nervous system. Understanding what's happening underneath that behavior can replace the shame and confusion with clarity. Like, people just don't understand, and you'll start to beat yourself up if you can't figure it out. And it's not fun being a parent and not knowing how to help your child. So I felt like other parents did not need to go through this. It shouldn't be that hard to get answers, especially if you're on a waiting list for OT. And you have nowhere to go but Google. Like, that wasn't acceptable to me anymore. So I built something that, will hopefully help people while they're in therapy, when they're not in therapy, for everything in between, and while they're waiting. So
Beautiful. Melanie. And you're, yeah.
So mine just my chapter is like you just can't stay. I had to move. Um Finances were not in a good situation for people to spend money at the spa. And I had to either panic, which it was not a good thing. That gives you wrinkles, or I had to pivot. So everyone was starting to ask me, like, I heard you're trying to kind of get, more familiar with the financial industry. You're kind of helping a few people. And so now I just dug into it and I just dived into it, and I still do the spa stuff, just very part-time. That's not my big girl job anymore. Now I help people across the country have a better financial future for their retirement, for their children, and just really educate them on how finances actually work in the world and have just to live a healthier, happier life.
Beautiful. Okay, let's keep going on these questions. This is all about the experience you had writing this chapter, okay? Because I know a lot of you, as you wrote, had some insights, had some, crying moments, some feelings that happened. So let's go back to you, Devon. Take us back to the moment things stopped fitting. What did that feel like in real time? Not in hindsight.
In real time.
Yeah.
It was unnerving.
Mm,
I in the passages, I used the word tectonic platelet shifts to try to put words to the magnitude of how imbalanced I felt. And I also used the analogy of, and several of the executives here today have kind of mentioned, that outward appearance. I talk about an itchy sweater that's a luxurious, beautiful sweater, and it looks great on the outside, but on the inside it's itchy, it's uncomfortable, and you know, those are the moments where it's just like, okay, change. You do you really want to live this way? And the understanding too that I'm surviving something that other people struggle to survive, and I want to help people journey through the same transition. And like many of the women here, it was beyond just thinking about myself.
mm,
It was saying, hey, I know there's a whole group of folks out here who are traveling the same path, who might be a few steps behind me. Um, how can I lend a hand? How can I make my experience not in vain, but worthwhile? Right. So,
right. Nicole?
Um, the moment things stopped fitting, I would say for me it felt like a mix of deep frustration and heartbreak for my clients. I was on a call with a business owner in absolute panic because another preparer had completely ghosted them. But what's most upsetting, I think, is seeing how these pop-up preparers are tainting my industry, making it incredibly hard for people to trust the next professional after being burned. So it made me realize that I wasn't just running my own clean practice, or that running my own clean practice wasn't enough, that I had to step in and protect them and rebuild that trust.
Wonderful. Jessica?
Yamilca, you're not getting out of your questions at the end of this round, young lady. When things stopped fitting, so I was lucky enough to have a moment of burnout. I had a huge burnout, and I know you said in the moment, but looking at hindsight, as I was going through it, I think I welcomed it because it was peace. It led me to peace. Um, Hindsight is like I'm so thankful, so thankful for that burnout. Like I hit like a huge point, and that was actually very beautiful in itself. So, not feeling like you could rest like before, not feeling like you could rest, really pushing yourself, being super productive, and um, spoiler alert. Now I proved that I could operate from chaos. Now I operate and I flow in peace, and I just feel so much better. So,
Wonderful. Dr. Sandy?
I guess mine is a little different from everyone. I didn't know that things weren't fitting.
Mm,
When someone started to help me, I was really young. And I was babysitting. I thought I had a babysitting service and just running my little thing until someone pointed it out to me that I was actually doing something illegal. at the time. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I didn't even know I was, not doing something correctly. But once they showed me, and this was a person I disliked, it wasn't someone that I liked. I just, he was so nosy. At least I thought he was so nosy. And for him to point it out and for me to accept that what he said to me was a reality was the moment that I'm like, oh crap, I'm not doing the right thing. And he offered up to help me. Like, who does that? I was so skeptical. I'm like, he's trying to put me out of business. I even told my mom. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then in hindsight, it was like, why did I think I could do that? Why didn't I, know before? But youth, you have no knowledge of these things. But I'm so glad that he did. And I realized later that everything was chaotic from my books that I kept in a cookie jar, like my money. Everything was chaotic, and he really helped me build a business out of that. And I've utilized that model of having an advisory board ever since. So that was my first takeaway on things not going right.
Beautiful. Dr. Shannon?
Um, let's see. There was a few different situations that I wanted to give up. I pursued referrals, went to an evaluation that wasn't a referral, but it was a program that they were trying to get me to spend $7,500 every 3 months out of pocket for an issue that he has, but it wasn't just you know what I mean? He has more than one. It's ADHD, sensory processing, retained reflexes. When you look at him, he runs around like a normal hyper ADHD child. But the school he was going to was the Southern Baptist school, and it was really strict. I explained to them the evaluation that he had and what was going on. And if I chose them for therapy while I was on a wait list for OT, the school would come in and actually speak to them and they could understand what was going on also. Instead, I would show up and pick him up, and he's hyper. He plays hard. He doesn't listen. He also has ODD. So the more you argue with him, the more he wants to negotiate and debate you. And then his adrenaline spikes, and then it can be a fight. So this school in particular had red write-up slips, flaming red pieces of paper. And I would walk in with that dread, like I was going into the principal's office, because I was about to have the principal of the church, who's also a sheriff in that county, like present me with this. And did you sign this and know what your son did today? And it was just like, oh my God, like I've tried to explain to you all what's going on. Like we're trying to figure it out. And I just remember sitting in my Jeep and I was like, if one more person they don't understand. They just want to keep telling me what's wrong with him and what's wrong with his behavior. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge ADHD or different neurodiverse issues. If your child looks atypical, it's a spectrum for a reason. And he can run around and play and, present himself as, your average kid. But deep down, there's stuff going on and different things would trigger it. And just nobody could explain anything. So I just sat in my Jeep, had a good cry, and then just decided we're doing this. Like he started homeschooling. We did OT ourselves. I, was spending money on a bunch of courses and research materials. So I went down the rabbit hole and said, screw it. I'm not waiting on OT anymore. And I bought all the continuing education credit hours that OTs would buy on all of the issues he was having. And that was while being enrolled in 2 different $5,000 parenting programs. It was one paragraph in a book we were in that touched base on sensory issues with retained reflexes that the light bulb went off. And I was like, wait a minute, nobody else has even mentioned anything close to this. And this is a real thing. Like, what is going on? And that was it. I was done. He's homeschooled and OT twice a day here, waiting to get into OT. And we have it now, which is good, but it's a continuing effort, to get him to where he needs to be so he can function more socially, with other kids and possibly go back to the school setting.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you went deep into the rabbit hole, because sometimes that's how you help other people, right?
Yeah.
Then they don't have to do what you do. They just can really help. I think that goes for everybody, right? When you go deep
Mhm.
into what you do, Nicole, you were talking about your client, and it kind of helps. It helps not just one person, but it helps a lot of other people.
Mhm. Definitely.
Melanie?
Hello. For me, it was definitely hard to transition because I had been a beauty owner for so long. People did not want to see me as anything else but that. So that was very, very, very challenging for me. But I just kept with it and just because people started asking me questions, how do you run your spa so fluently? And, you make it look easy. No, it was not easy. I mean, like 12-hour days, sometimes I'd be there 14-hour days and it just cleaning and making sure everyone's taken care of and paychecks and just ordering things and making sure no shows and it got to be chaos. Loved it, loved the chaos. I didn't know I was even in chaos until like I was out of the chaos. But now I just actually it's so funny. I just had a meeting with a young lady that I went to aesthetic school with, and she just called me. Actually, me and Shannon were together a Saturday ago, and she called me. That's why I was not at the pool. She called me and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, you can't do what anymore? And she's like, I'm just working two small jobs and I can't do this. I'm trying to I want more time. And I was like, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, do what would I do? Like, she's like, I want to do the finance thing. I'm like, okay. So we just had a meeting yesterday, and she's like, "You seem so like less chaos." And I was like, "That's my word." So because it was organized chaos, it was beautiful. My Yamilca had been to my spa numerous times, so she saw all the hard work we did. So cried a lot, but it was good. I'm glad I'm where I'm at now because it has been a journey, a very hard journey. But
And Melanie, it's so interesting you say that because I can see myself in each one of you. And one of the things, that it's really hard to let something go when you've put so much time and effort and love into it. It's like you're kind of like tearing that skin apart, and it's very, very painful.
absolutely.
Um,
After
and
25 years, it was
and
hard.
yes, and it was a beautiful spa, and I know it probably was very difficult for you to let that go because you built it from the ground up.
Mhm.
And but at the end of the day, it's the best thing that happens to us.
Yeah,
And to answer the question myself, um, I think there were a few different pieces for me. Some of it was I was way overworking, just like some of you were saying, way overworking, and I had realized it. It was time for me to really get deep into my thesis, and I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I had to go really inward and figure out what I was willing to let go so I could move to this next phase. And it was really hard because I wanted to keep everything. And you know what? Some of these things I wasn't getting paid for. And so it was like easy, right? You're like, you're not getting paid for that. Just like cut it off. And sometimes, Melanie, I know you had difficult times financially, and it's like we need to let those things go. They should be the easiest thing to let go, but it was really hard. And but once I did it, once I was able to kind of let go each of the different pieces, it took me a little bit. I had to do that. um I felt so light, and clarity came in, and things kind of unfolded, and I was shown a path. I had because I had more clarity and less stuff in my head. Like when you have so much stuff, you don't see anything. You just see chaos. And so once you're able to let that go, I was able to see where I was going. And even though I've had ups and downs these last 6 months on writing and going back and going again, you and some of you know what I'm talking about. I just last week, my advisor said, I think you're ready to turn this in. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not done. Now I was stopping it. So it's just a beautiful journey. And I think all of us went through the hero's journey when we wrote our chapters. And I think we can kind of go back now and see that journey fully. So I'm going to go to the next question. I'm going to jump into the project because there's a lot more questions I want to ask, but we can't go through every single one of these. So I'm going to start with you, Devon. Why say yes to putting this story in a book in public with your name on it?
So even though you didn't bring me in kicking and screaming, I had a lot of questions when you first invited me, and I was honored to be invited, and then really excited about the thought of working with these amazing women and these female leaders. And uh, I thought that my all of our stories are very personal. And in many of our chapters, we talk about not just our emotional struggles, but our financial struggles, our relationship struggles. And so, as a leader, when I think about the executives that, I've coached, you rarely have someone that you can go to and say, hey, I'm afraid, or I'm unsure, or Sandy, when you talk about, I just don't know what I don't know, it's difficult. And I thought, okay, you're saying you've got to own your evolution, right? And that means you can't hide.
Mm.
And I thought, how can I say that, the firm, which is me, the founder, um, saying, hey, we're going to help you put order to chaos. We're going to help you transform your performance. We're going to help you build capability. If I'm not willing to articulate the journey that put me in the position to help someone do that. And so you were like, you got to tell people your story. And so that's why I said yes. That's why I said yes. And what I love about each of these women is having the courage to tell their personal story, because for no other reason so that it helps someone else. I've had a chance to sit with all these women and hear their stories and get to know them, and it's really not about them. I think every one of them would say, I'm doing this to help others. Um, so that's the answer to my question. I mean, your question, Yamilca. That's my
Thank you,
answer.
Devon. Thank you. Nicole.
So this is actually my second chapter in the series. In
Yes.
the first book, From Start to Scale, it's my origin story and why I started the business. So when the opportunity for the second book, Built for Breakthrough, came up, I realized my story wasn't over. And
Mm.
I wanted to shine a light on why hiring a quality professional saves you so much time and money in the long run. More than that, I wanted to emphasize the peace of mind that comes from knowing you have a reliable partner who understands your history and can give you the invaluable insight whenever you need it.
Love that. Beautiful. Jessica.
You're on
Jessica,
mute.
you're on mute.
I said, I love hearing everybody's stories. Love being a part of this. Um, your mess is the message. I'm sure we've all heard that before. I have all this lived experience that I went through, and I'm on the other side. And just to let somebody else know this is possible to feel the way I feel. And it's just extraordinary. I've helped a lot of women in my life, and I want to help more people. Come here, sweet girl. Let me hold your hand as you go through this crazy thing. I wish I could have been there for Melanie during her transition.
Mm.
Um, and I just, exactly what Devon said. We're here to like help other people and the story. And writing this book was actually really hard because I was still in a lot of transitions. And as I was writing this, I'm like, there's even more going on. And I see a lot of smiles. So I think, some people can relate. I know Yamilca can.
Mhm.
And our stories, even right now, ladies, your story is still going. Even people listening to this, your story, we're in constant growth, especially strong women like this, it's amazing. So thank you.
Beautiful. Dr. Sandy.
Ah, the first draft of my book is nothing like the second draft of my book. Because when I started out, I was writing about how I came to do business, and the advisory board part of it was minimal. And then I had my husband read it, and he said, "But how did you do your advisory board? I didn't hear anything about that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm just writing about, how I became an entrepreneur." And then I gave it to my ex-business partner. I said, "I'm writing this chapter, and here's what it looks like. Give me a quick read." And in like 10 minutes, she's like, "But you didn't say anything about the advisory board." I'm like, "Oh man, this advisory board." So I I actually sat down and rethought, what is it that I want people to understand about this? And the thing that was consistent throughout my life was really I had what is now known an advisory board. I just call them people, mentors, and people helping me. But I really had an advisory board throughout my entire life. And that is the thing that I wanted. And that's the thing I'm doing business with right now, is helping people to form their boards. So I redid it probably like 4 times and just trying to help people understand how it helped me then and throughout my life, how having other people's input really impacted my business and impacted me. And that's something that I really would like for people to understand, is just really the power of getting advice. You
Mm.
can decide to take it or not to take it, but you get that outside perspective all the time. And that's how I wound up writing about my topic. But I have to say, it was not my first thought. And I thought it fit right in with all what the other ladies, because I read some of the other ladies' chapters, and I'm like, oh, they could have used an advisory board up in here.
Yeah. Dr. Shannon?
Hmm. I would say my call to it was because of parents and adults that are
Mm.
spending an enormous amounts of time, money, emotional energy, researching, trying to find solutions to the problems they don't have a language for. If you don't know what's wrong, you don't even know what to look for. And when you can't figure it out, you feel like you're failing as a parent. You think you're a lazy adult, if you're grown. It doesn't even have to relate to just children, but shame kind of grows in that gap. And then people don't reach out because they're embarrassed, they feel ashamed, and they don't know what to do. So I wanted there to be a different message with that. Sometimes what looks like a behavior problem is just a translation problem. And if telling my story helps people ask better questions and dig deep to find out what's going on underneath, then that's worth telling publicly to people. So,
Beautiful. Melanie?
Well, I had manifested a book for several years, wrote in a journal, and so I see Yamilca often, and I was like, Yamilca, I knew she was working on a book and some books, and I was like, I had clients for a long time, and actually during COVID, a lot of my clients said, you just need to write a book, whether it's on health, wellness, whatever it was. And so, you know what? And then she said, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book, and I'm like, I'm going to have some chapters, and I said, she's like, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a process. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. It is not, is, it's challenging writing a book, but I finally manifestation actually got me here. So, but,
Love it.
yeah. And so just, helping to have so many clients that, just like Shannon was saying, just like embarrassment. People were just so embarrassed to like to talk about certain things, and they would just open up to me, and they were just like, hey, I'm having some trouble with this, or can I have questions about that? And that was before I even, got all of my licensing and everything to do what I do now. So that was when I had, my other practice. And so it's things are much better now.
So the best cure
Mhm.
for really opening up is writing a book. And I think people a lot of times don't understand that because my first book, I was so nervous. And I'm like, I'm not a writer. What am I doing here? And I think I learned so much from that experience that I wanted to share it with more people. And to be honest, the first time I did it, Nicole was in the first book. I said I'm not doing a second book. I'm like, this is too much work. And Melanie came. Are you gonna do the second book? And I had some people like, are you gonna do the second book? And I had kind of posted it, and I said, well, if people come, I'm gonna do it because I feel like it's important to move forward with it. And so I opened it back up and all of you came in, which I am so again honored. But I will say, like the one, the reason why I did it, some of it was for you, Melanie, because you were like, come on, let's do this. And I'll tell you, Melanie sent me like 5 people because she was like, we're making
We're
this
doing this
happen.
book. I called Shannon first. I said, Shannon, you're
We're
going to do
making
this
this
book.
happen no matter what, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I I don't know if there will be a book 3, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna let the universe guide me and let me know. But again, like I said before, I love the process. I love the process that this does to open people up, um, and really write about themselves and what they went through, in a more open way. And it taught me a lot about myself. And now I've written a lot of different books, and I'm going to continue writing books because it's just a really interesting way to get to know yourself and get
So
to
there's
know
a
other
volume
people.
3 in the future. Is that what you're
And
saying?
maybe we'll see. Okay, so continuing on. Why did this need to be shared? Sorry, why did this need to be a shared book? 7 women instead of your own, Devon.
I believe the collective story that once you read through all the chapters, there's a collective story about um, even in brokenness, even in frustration and overwhelm, that you can still become victorious. Uh, you have to trust yourself. You have to face the realities, um, which are often painful and disappointing. But I believe, when you read our collective story, it is about um, really overcoming and uh, also the sacrifice. Someone said earlier about, having to let go. And uh, in order, I think if for any of us, we would say in order to have advanced along the journey, there were things we just had to let go in order to move forward. And I just look at all these women and they're so courageous and I'm so honored to be among them. And Dr. Sandy, I say all this, just like you, I was like, I need an advisory team. And I think that we've built relationships amongst ourselves. And so I have women now that provide services in a way that aligns with my ethos. right? And so I now have a network that I can share with my clients, that I would feel comfortable, you know, picking my client up and saying, okay, I'm going to send you off to, they'll take care of you. I know they will. So that's why it was important to me.
Beautiful. Nicole?
Um, I think breakthrough is not an isolated event. We're all deeply influenced and encouraged by the people around us. And seeing seven very different women come together and tell their personal story, it feels raw, it feels inspirational, it's immensely powerful. And I think it gives the reader permission to do the same in their own life.
Beautiful. Jessica?
People are mirrors. Relationships are mirrors. This book is a beautiful mirror. And, when I think about this book, I think like all of our stories combined, how there's like a thread that connects all of us. When somebody reads this book, they can see a piece of themselves in somebody else's story.
She
And
has
building
the first
trust.
copy.
I was gonna say, where did she get that?
Yeah,
I
I
On
was like, that was
Amazon.
fast.
Author
Jessica.
specials.
Make me feel bad. I don't have mine yet.
She was
Yeah,
fast.
I
She
don't
went
have
on
one yet.
Amazon and went ahead and did it.
I
We're still
love it.
working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't get
So-
mine. I gotta call her back.
No, no, no. Nobody got theirs. Jessica went on Amazon and bought it. You
You
could,
gotta go
you
get
could.
it if you want it.
So we will be getting, everybody will be getting theirs. But if you're in a hurry, like Jessica, you can go on Amazon and buy it. Anyway, beautiful. Um, Dr. Sandy.
So I was writing a book on advisory boards. I'm still writing the darn book on advisory boards.
What?
I have about 10 chapters written, and it's enough to form a book. And I just could not pull the trigger on forming a book. So that's why I chose a different topic when I got your, I'm like, oh, I'm already doing advisory board. I'll do another topic. But the difference with what I was writing is more of a textbook, like why you should have a board and what is a board. A lot of people always ask me what is an advisory board versus a board of directors, and so that was more what I was writing about. And this gave me the chance to really talk personally about how a board helped me to grow in all the different aspects of my life throughout my life. And it was something that I will continue to have, even informally, for the rest of my life. Even if it's just my friends that I can call up and ask for advice, I'll still have someone to do that because it was so important to me and made me the person I am, getting outside perspectives from other people and things that I would never have thought about, whether in a corporate world, someone would say something to me, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that because they were a higher level, or in the business world, I'm not a salesperson. I really am not, I'm a marketing person. So when I have someone with sales on my advisor board that says, Sandy, I'm telling you, this is what you need to try. I don't have to do it, but I should be able to try it. That made all the difference in the world that I know that, hey, if I tried it and I don't like it, I could always stop. But at least I took their advice and tried it. Usually they're right. Usually they're right. So that's what made me come on board. And I realized no one else had a topic or a similar topic, and mine would blend right in with anything somebody else would do. So that's why I came on board with this.
Beautiful. Dr. Shannon?
Well, I think mine is because breakthrough doesn't look the same for everybody. We all have different industries, different stories, but there's something powerful about seven different completely women that come together and at a point in their life where what's going on isn't working for them and they build something different. And I like it as well that everybody's in here doing something to help other people, not just themselves. It really does speak volumes for the character of everybody that's in this book. And I feel honored to be with everybody in this book. Um, Breakthrough isn't just one personality. It's not just one perfect formula. It's loud, it's dramatic, it's emotional, and sometimes it's just sitting in your Jeep and finally realizing that you're not going to take this shit no more. You know,
Amen.
you got to make a change.
Amen.
Something's got to work. Sorry.
Beautiful.
It is what it is.
Mm.
Melanie.
Well, I think it's a lot to do a book by yourself. I've not done one. Maybe one day, but not today. I think just so many different just backgrounds and just experiences and just different parts of the country and just different things that people can connect to. I think that is just a really great thing to have, because somebody can connect with maybe me or maybe Shannon or maybe Jessica just differently in that book than, maybe a little bit from all of us. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So one of the reasons I did 3 collaborative books before I did my own book. And I was hoping that a collaborative book, there were a few different reasons, but I was hoping people could kind of get interested in writing their own book. I know Jessica talked about maybe writing her own book after this.
I got two
Um,
books coming.
oh, look at that.
Yes, yes.
And I will finish my advisory board book. I will actually publish it.
Awesome. So, that was one reason. The other reason was I had so much fun in the other collaborative books that I was in. I would have never written my own book if I wasn't in a collaborative book. And I got to meet other people and get to know other women who were some of my best friends were in the other books, just really connected with them. And I wanted to also, the third thing why I wanted to do this is I wanted to try out something none of the other books offered, which was the hero's journey. And the reason why is when I did my own book, um, I I used the hero's journeys to write it. It was so much easier to write that book with that in mind than if I just tried to kind of just make it up on my own. And I thought that experience also got deep without you really knowing. And so I started using it not only in the books where I thought would help people, but also in workshops. And it was so fascinating in workshops because people were like sharing things maybe they didn't want to share in a work environment. And so I think it's really just a beautiful thing. And now you guys are making me want to do volume 3, but I don't know yet. But anyway, it's just and I feel so grateful that all of you came on, and it's not really part of my primary business, but I just have so much fun doing this, and I really enjoy the time, and 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 actually, I have to tell you this quick story. I got a review. We got a review from my major advisor for the thesis, and she was telling me all about my chapter, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And she was like, "Oh my God, I love this part and this part where you talked about. It's all about what where we're going through right now and the changes." And I was like, I wasn't expecting that, and I think that's the beautiful thing about sharing your chapter and having somebody else read it and coming back to you and telling you about your own chapter. I think that's just a really great, just beautiful thing that happens when people read your books. I had somebody else read another book of mine and they wrote me this beautiful email. And that is just like, who does that? Like, I'm so grateful for that. And that's why I will keep writing and keep and maybe doing this again. But because it's just so fulfilling, and I appreciate every single one of you for that.
And I
Okay.
thank you for using the hero's journey. because I was a theater major and they used that to develop movies and to develop scripts. And I never ever thought of using it in any other capacity like this to write it. So thank you for sharing that.
I must say that my little girl, who's almost 10, she read my book to me, my chapter, and she saw her dedication, and like that just changes things in a different
Mm,
way.
beautiful. And it the hero's journey, I think all of us almost cried in our when we read our first time our chapters, and I think that's really the gift of it. A lot of times when people are writing their books, they're not really getting emotional, and it's so important to tell a story and feel that emotion when you're writing a book and when you're reading a book too.
I
Mhm.
think one thing I would want to say is when I read my chapter the first time to the group, I was like, who is this chick? Like, where did she come from? Like, what kind of life has she? Poor thing. Um, because when you're in the middle of it and in the midst of it, you're so busy drinking water from the fire hose and trying to stay afloat uh, that you don't realize what you've actually survived. And so for people like us who are constantly, right, it's like the next thing, what's the next thing? Um, it was important when I read it, it gave me time to actually sit with what I had like survived
Yeah.
and to say, wow, Devon, you know, you're a badass. you you did that, right? And so, sometimes we have a tendency to be so hard on ourselves,
Mhm.
particularly as females and then leaders and whatnot. But it when I read it, I was like, I could give myself so much grace
Yes.
now, you know? So
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go to the individual questions about your chapter now. Um, Devon, this is going to be a different order. Woohoo! Okay, so Devon, even though you're first, but the next one isn't you. So the next one isn't Nicole, but we'll keep it a secret like this. Okay, so Devon, you were laid off on February 14th of 2020, weeks before the pandemic, and while grieving. What made you launch Ascension Strategies that same year instead of waiting for solid ground?
So not only had I been laid off, um, we lost my son's father uh, weeks later, and my ex-husband. And so, um, you've been hit financially, you've been hit emotionally, and as a parent, right, you just are in protection mode at that point to make sure that he was going to be okay. And I spent the next several months just trying to survive those hits. And at, uh, I guess, probably June, July, uh, I, I was I was where Dr. Shannon was sitting in that Jeep. Okay, I probably was there with her spiritually, maybe, but I had just had enough. And it was just like, that's it. I'm pulling the cord. Uh, you know, I have nothing, literally, I have nothing to lose. And I think the failure to start or to launch prior to that, even years prior to that, was about the fear of losing something. And, God had put me in a position where there was nothing for this sister to lose. Like there was nothing. So why not have the audacity to start a business in the middle of a pandemic? And, in not following one iota of guidance that academia had taught me, had life experience had taught me. I threw it all out the window and I'm going to walk on faith and intuition and what I know what works best for me. Much like Shannon, it was just like, okay, they don't have the answers. I'll come up with the answers, and then I'm going to go and tell everybody.
Mhm.
So yeah, that that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Jessica, you left a six-figure role with no plan. What did rebuilding around your own nervous system actually look like day to day?
Peace. Peace is my most valued possession nowadays. And I build and I operate differently now. I'm more intentional with who I choose to work with, what projects I choose to take on, what clients I choose to take on. I live from a place of intuition now. Every action I take, I check in with myself first and I get my answers from the inside and figure out how I'm going to move next. And going with what Devon was talking about, when you have everything taken away from you, you get to see how strong you really are, and it breaks all those attachments, even to money. At my lowest money state, I was the most fulfilled. And I don't know if other people have experienced that too, but it is like the greatest blessing that could ever happen to me in my life. And it was so amazing. So, um, something else to mention is like if you read my chapter, there's a part where I have a coworker. Before I got burned out at this crazy job, I had a coworker that her body literally shut down at work. And so if you're listening to this, and I took her to the hospital at work, from the job site, and if anybody's listening to this and you feel tension in your heart when you're going to work or working with a certain person or choosing a certain client, you can change and you can choose differently. Your health and the way you feel and the stress is very important to take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. Over and out.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Melanie, 30s no before your first yes. Yes. What kept you in the room after rejecting 29?
Oh, well, like I said, I had to pivot a lot in all the changes that came from my other industry. And I just knew that I was no one's come to save me. They helped me get to where I needed to go. I helped my parents, my children, and I knew that this was definitely something that everybody needed, even if they didn't realize it or not. And so I think for me, it was just having to change a character. It was so hard because people just viewed me as a certain way, and it was just like the actor will always play the good guy and they played like the villain that one time, like that was not right, like something's off, like that was just like, or vice versa, the person plays the villain and the other play the good guy and like, something's weird. So that was for me, that was what it was, because I was getting ready to have I had like, it was a six-figure industry. I was getting ready to franchise that spa when everything went stupid in the world. And I didn't have options. I didn't just I'm at home. I can't work by lots of mandates. It was really special. So it started, and we came back. It was all great. And then literally, when everything started to fall apart, I still remember I saw that my pretty small window have snow coming. It was an ice storm of that year, and it just didn't stop. It was like an ice storm after ice storm. It not literally, but it started with an ice storm. And then it was just another storm, and then it was like an avalanche. And I'm like, okay. I have that. Where's my sign? This is my sign. This is a sign. I've got to do something different. And I don't have options. Like, I just knew I can't do the spa thing forever. And I just, like I said, told my friend when I saw her yesterday, I was like, I feel like I'm free. Like, I don't have to be anywhere. I could be on the Zoom. I could be in person. I could be at the coffee shop. It's like, it's free. I'm like, so free. It's amazing.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Dr. Shannon, chaos to calm came from a specific night with your son. What was different about that night versus all the others?
When you hear your child say that school just never worked out for them and he's only made it through kindergarten, and he tells you they don't like me, they don't want me there, it's heartbreaking.
Mm.
And you have to do something different. I already worked from home, so the homeschooling thing was just stacking something, on top, but it's worked out for us. I mean, he's an OT, we do the homeschool thing. I built ND family support. I've actually got another site I'm working on. I had to teach myself the vibe code because I built that site myself. So that was a challenge. But I think just looking at him every night, just seeing what he was going through and struggling. My other children are in their 20s. He's almost 8. It was a whole different ball game. I mean, I've known since he was like a year and a half old when he was pushing baby food away. He would look at it and then get spooked. That's ARFID. Like it's his nervous system. He just different minds think differently, right? And the nervous system affects all of it. And it's just getting down to that. And when you're watching a child who's 5, 6 years old think that people don't like him, that he's bad, something's wrong with him, and that he's struggling like that, it breaks you as a parent. And you just luckily, like I said, I worked from home and I was able to dump that time and energy into all the research and materials and then teach myself how to vibe code and put it all somewhere so other people could have it and understand what's actually going on. My coaching before was in a trauma and sorry, I'm getting tongue tied, but was in trauma response and somatics and stuff. And the more I was digging into the neurodiverse stuff, the more I realized like, you don't have to be born neurodiverse. Somebody doesn't have to tell you you're ADHD. If you experience overwhelm, burnout as an adult, late diagnosed or not even diagnosed, you can hit your head. All of it still affects the brain and your neurotransmitters in the same way. You're going to have these issues, whether it's trauma related, from something that happened in your childhood or adulthood. It all affects our nervous systems and how we respond to the rest of the world and how we perceive how other people are responding to us. So just watching him struggle with that. And then one good thing, I was calling with all the referrals to see who could get him in. One place said, "Oh, we don't see children. We only see adults." And I was like, "Oh, wait, and y'all take my insurance?" I was like, "Can I get a test?" So late diagnosed ADHD. I knew I always had it. I was always anti-medicine, always trying to be the happy, hippie, healthy, granola tree hugging person. And I finally got on medication. And it's honestly, I can sit there now in tunnel vision for 4 hours straight. You know what I mean? Vibe coding. And I'm like, oh my God, I can actually follow through with something now. And this book helped with that as well. So just the follow through, because it's like, you're going to be in this book. You better get your site like down and ready. Like you can't just be in a book and then there's nothing to show for it, Shannon. Like you're going to follow through and it's birthing a lot more. So yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, you've watched TikTok tax experts reshape your industry. What's the real cost your clients are paying for that? And how does the audit proof standard protect them?
I think the biggest danger with viral tax advice is the false sense of security. It treats the tax code like it's one size fits all and like it's a game of life hacks and loopholes. But the real cost is the eventual penalties. It's the business owners making major financial decisions based on entertainment, completely missing out on real customized strategies that actually fit their specific business. Writing this chapter forced me to take a step back and put exactly why I fight so hard into words. And it helped me take all that frustration of cleaning up the bad returns and turn it into something positive. Putting the audit proof standard on paper just took what I was naturally doing to protect my clients and turned it into a framework that anyone can use. We strip away the gimmicks. We don't do hacks. We build a personalized, heavily documented foundation so that year round, every move you make is supported by facts and not trends, and you're legitimately protected. I want people to take a hard look at who's really in their corner If you have an accountant that you deeply trust, someone who takes the time to answer your questions and is constantly available, then you're in good hands. If you don't feel that level of safety, or if you're still just handing your papers to the next available representative at the tax prep franchise store, then I want readers to stop settling and demanding a true professional who's going to look out for their livelihood.
Thank you. Beautiful. Dr. Sandy, from a garage daycare at 10 to a multi-dollar I can't read today. To a multi-million dollar exit. What's the one thing your advisory board did that you couldn't have done alone?
I could not have gotten the advice that they gave me in order to get my business sold without paying probably millions of dollars, honestly. And my advisory board, and I had different people on the board at different time. It's not like I had one and then, for all the years of business we had. Every person who came into my business had valuable advice for us. When we felt we didn't need that part of the advice, we would just get somebody else who, that we needed. And I'd have to say that the biggest advice they gave us that really started us on the way to growing our business was they kept saying, Sandy and Peggy, you have to get off billing. We're a consulting company. And at the time, Sandy and Peggy, we were the company and we were making good money. We were, pulling in like close to $1 million ourselves, just the two of us. And we're like, no, they like us. They want us. We're the ones they want. And they kept saying, you have to get a team. You can't do this by yourself. You have to grow. And you can't do that spending 9, 10 hours a day on a job and then coming home, we're doing the books at night. They're like, it doesn't work like that. We put them off for like 2, 3 years. We're like, we're it. We know we're it. This is what they want. They asked for Sandy and Peggy. And we just got so burnt out. And the revenue wasn't growing because our capacity is this much, right? And we wanted to double revenues year over year. And we finally had to say, okay, I'm going to stop first because I'm more the operations person between Peggy and myself. So I'll stop first and start building this. But I was like, I'm not going on assignment anymore. I'm not going to be like the big person on the job. But it was the best thing that they ever did. They helped us put processes in place, operation procedures that we didn't have, we didn't need. They helped us to hire people, the types of people that we needed. We'd have them interview the people sometimes. I mean, they were really good. They helped us get capital. We were loan averse. We're women. We're not taking out any loans for anything. But after your business gets to a certain level, if you're at like 5 or 10 million, one day payroll is going to come in and you might say, I don't know, I'm going to make payroll because somebody didn't pay me yet. And I didn't think about those things, but the board did. And so you need to have a loan, just draw down on it and pay it back until you really need it. And surely enough, that time came. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God. And the time was when our payroll was $1 million. And I said,
Wow.
what was my payroll? And they're like, it's $1 million this time. And I'm like, we're going to draw down on the loan, right? We had a loan to draw down from, so it wasn't a big deal, as much a big a deal as was, how am I going to pay that? So thank you to my advisory board for setting us up. And we told them, they even asked us, when are you guys planning to retire? We need to make sure how much money do you need after you retire? And we did that 10 years earlier than we started to and sold in no time at all because we were so well set up and we had all the answers when the buyers came. They're like, you have all let's just buy. And it was 10 years earlier than we thought we would be there, and it's been great. And we're still following some of the advice that they gave us, even in our personal lives. So thank you to
Wow.
my advisor board, and I hope everyone gets one that can help them that way.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. So I don't have a question for myself, but if I had to write a question for myself, it would be more like, what is next for bespoke branding? I've learned a lot through this process that I'm writing this thesis, and I've already started shifting my business, and I think that for me is just continuing to help other women, continuing to make things beautiful, and continuing to do it with more energy, with a smile, and no stress. That's really my goal. But before we end, because this is the ending of our live, I want to ask each of you, what's next for you? What's next after this? So, in we're going to continue our order. So, Devon, tell me what's next. You're on mute, by the way.
Sure.
Oh, there.
So I just, as the founder, completed our enterprise playbook, and it was part of our next maturation cycle. So today is our 6th anniversary for Ascension
Oh,
Strategies.
Congrats. Oh, yeah, you
congratulations.
said
Thank you. Thank
congratulations.
you. And so I've brought on a number of people, and Sandy, just spot on. I had to write a document that pulled in all of the things that we've codified from year 1 to year 6, but we're still disparate and in nature. And so the playbook is a foundational document. It's, I would say, 85% evergreen, uh, but it's not an operations manual, it's not an HR manual. It is literally a playbook that says this is how we roll at Ascension Strategies. And uh, with from that, we now have enterprise architecture for our workflow, for how we're designed and organized, to why we have certain staff, to the systems and tech stack that will need to grow. And so that is huge. And then I do, if hopefully Dr. Sandy doesn't mind, but I took her advice and I reached out to her and I said, I need an advisory group. And I said, would you be my mentor for this? And so, Yamilca, this is wonderful because it's working, like, even within the group. And she was gracious enough to say, absolutely. But I will tell you, she has been stretching me from day one of her acceptance. And I'm like, holy goodness, I'm gonna have to, Shannon, kind of like what you were saying, I'm gonna have to stay focused.
Mhm.
I gotta show up now. And so it's the first time in my founder CEO journey where I'm accountable to someone
Hmm.
besides myself. And that gives me so much comfort. So yeah, that's what's
Yeah,
the evolution. We're getting ready to own, the firm is getting ready to own its evolution. So
beautiful.
that's what's
Beautiful.
next.
Nicole, what's next for you?
Um, I believe that work-life balance is extremely important. I've been working so hard on launching my new brand, the Two Palms Accounting, and growing and scaling, and it's been very successful, but very tiring too. And so I don't think I could ever stop working. It's funny, my husband makes fun of me because I want to get into children's books. And he's like, so your hobbies are launching businesses? And I'm like, yes, that's literally what I do. I can't help it. So, running other businesses is fun for me. So I decided to maybe have a creative outlet. And as we were talking about how publishing one book leads you into publishing more, I don't think a book on taxes would be very fun. So I would like to venture children's books. I'm a mom. I have two boys. I have nieces and nephews. I always thought I would work with children. I wanted to be a teacher, a pediatrician, anything working with children, but that's not the route that life took me. So I thought that this would be a fun way to have a creative outlet to be able to do something fun for my kids and my nieces and nephews. And I go to little vendor events and I put out a table and I sell our book, the Business Playbook's on the table too. And then a few other children's books that I help promote. So that's kind of what I work on my spare time.
Beautiful. It's amazing you have spare time, so.
I use it very jokingly.
Jessica.
More expansion. Um, right now I'm in a beautiful transition place where all the pieces are being laid on the table, but I'm not exactly in a point to put the puzzle together. I'm letting the flower open beautifully in its own time. Um, I am very thankful for this experience because writing this chapter, I've already did the outline of two more books, and they come from a very deep place. And I'm focusing on one first. Don't worry, everybody. I'm focusing on the first one first, but I do have the outline and I know exactly what I'm writing the two books for. So this experience showed me like I have so much more to say. And I've been a multi-entrepreneur and started nonprofits and like done all this other kind of stuff, but um living authentically from the inner voice is like the best gift that I want to help people with. And for people to learn more, expandthesoul.com.
Beautiful. Dr. Sandy.
Ah, I'm definitely going to get that advisor board book done. I'm that's my number one. And similar to Jessica, it was no, it was Nicole, your children's book. I have a lot of stories from my childhood that I already started writing them out. I probably have about 10. And I want that to be something that stays with young people. That, I had summers in Jamaica, I had summers in Cape Cod and in Martha's Vineyard and in Brooklyn, number one. That was so much fun in those days as a child, completely different from now. And I want to just put a lot of my life down on paper because I don't have that. And I think I've had some pretty interesting things in my life, both personal and business. So I'm going to do that. I'm a caregiver of 5 people right now in my family, and I've learned a lot about caregiving in the last couple of years with men and women with healthcare systems. And my husband said I might be sued if I put all of that down. But I think it's stuff people would like to know, just to have a little playbook on how to work with, nursing homes and rehab facilities and hospitals and just kind of things that
Yeah,
I've learned and put together over time. So I have a lot of little things I want to do, and I hope I can get through to them.
beautiful. Dr. Shannon?
Well, I have 3 software programs I'm working on and 2 apps.
God.
I,
Maybe I should learn that too, Shannon. Maybe I should start taking.
I birthed my pain points. When I started vibe coding and building ND family support, I would start another project and I would work simultaneously on them. And then one of them that I was working on, it wasn't going to be public facing at first. It was just going to be, it was for me to stack my own information so my AI wouldn't collapse conversation and wouldn't lose what I'd done spent like forever time researching and having it do for me. And after about 3 months of that, I was like, wait a minute. I can't be the only person who lives in a city, who wants to buy rural land, who's trying to find owner financed, who wants to know how to, start homesteading while I live in a very, very urban part of the city. And I'm like, how do I do this? Like, I don't trust the grocery stores. I cringe when I walk in Kroger's, or order Whole Foods so I don't have to walk inside. And I turn my flower bed into a garden. So I've got a whole dedicated website of just, it's Freedom Land Plan. It's actually live. It's just not all
Put
the
it
way
in the
ready.
chat. Put it in the chat.
Yeah. And then I've got a couple other ones that I'm working on, and then 2 apps. So Body State Interpreter is actually attached to ND Family Support. You can get to it from there, but I'm going to switch the coding over to actually make it an app and try to get it on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. But basically how everybody uses all these devices and then they're like, oh, it said I did this for sleep, but I did this over here. Well, this is what I ate today. What do I do? I'm trying to follow this plan. I don't know. You just screenshot it all. Answer the questions, on Body State Interpreter. How do you actually feel? What's going on? Give me your screenshots, upload it. And it's trauma informed, neurodiverse friendly, and it literally tells you what's going on in your body that day, what you can do to stay regulated. It's not you didn't follow your keto plan, shame on you. It's very nurturing, right? And it helps you get through your day. And then it evaluates it at the end of the week and at the end of the month. And it shows you, patterns and helps you figure out what's actually going on within you. So that's one of them. And then Coach Yana is going to become an app as well. That way, if you don't have time to be on your computer or on your phone answering all the stuff and you're at work and you're having a meltdown in the bathroom because a coworker is being an ass, you can literally go in there, because if you've already done the assessment, it's personalized. It knows if you're on medications, what your triggers are, all of that stuff. And she'll literally talk you off a ledge. So I'm turning her into an app instead of just being on the website. So there's a lot. I'm ADHD, y'all. This is like what I do. I put my hands on everything.
That's the beauty of being ADHD, right?
Yeah. Yes, it can be a superpower. Much
more than anybody else.
Yes, it can be a superpower. I tell my son that all the time. You just have to know how to regulate. And I'm trying to co-regulate and teach him how to regulate his own nervous system and, keep a peaceful house. And part of ND Family Support has the Aligned Family, and it's called Raising ND. And it's a course on how to do that with your children. And it teaches the parents how to heal their nervous system and what's going on, and then how to show it to your children and explain the different parts of the brain, thinking owl. And then, we have the lower part of the brain. We call that the guard dog. So when you're starting to get angry or want to snap at people, my son knows that's his guard dog coming out to protect him, but he doesn't need protecting. Tell it to go away. It's fine. Pet it, tell it, go on. So, but yeah.
That is why you have a DR in front of your name.
Well, thank you. I love research stuff. I just, when I got my PhD, I've spent so much time like in self-help and counseling and IFS programs and doing different stuff with my spiritual groups. And I'm a metaphysical minister and a Tantra practitioner, and I was like, what can I do with my PhD that's in coaching and counseling besides some of the stuff I'd already done? And all this happened with my son, and I didn't think I was going to have to, spend all that money and go crazy and pull my hair out. And then I learned a lot about my own neurodiverse issues that I didn't have a name for. And like I said, it doesn't matter what you call it or what label it is. It's heal your shit, people. That's what I tell people. Heal your shit, and everything else falls into place. Take care of your body. You said before, mind, body, soul. It's everything. What you eat is your medication. You know what I mean? That's medicine for your body, and that changes your whole soul and the way your brain processes. And there's a lot to it.
I mean, I know you know a lot about this, Jessica, too, but look at the successful people, and they are fit as, and there's a reason, right?
Most definitely. I follow all those biohackers, and I love that stuff. I live for it. Like it's great.
Melanie, what's next for you?
I have a lot going on. All good stuff, though. Well, me and Shannon are working on some things. Yeah, but I think just being a female entrepreneur is a superpower, for sure. But there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think you might be getting another book, for sure.
Let's go to the next one.
It's
I
yeah.
think we can all do our next steps on the next book.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just had a brand new someone that just launched in our company. We have a brand new platform with the finance company. There's some amazing things going to happen where we do lots of financial education. We actually a lot of people don't know this, but there's only 7 states in all of the United States that actually has mandatory personal finance before you graduate. Indiana is one of them. Kentucky is not. I'm not sure where everybody else is out in the country, but they just don't teach it, and it's for a reason. There's lots of reasons they
yeah,
don't teach you what all the stuff.
they
But
want to keep us
Keep
ignorant.
it dumb.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I deal with.
Feed the machine, keep us sick and dumb.
so we're
Yeah,
here to make it
sick
health
and
and
dumb.
wealth for sure.
That's true.
I
Yes,
tell
we've got a lot of
people,
good things. And actually, I just had a accountant just join my organization. Actually, just yesterday, she just launched. So, Nicole.
Beautiful,
But
beautiful.
yeah, I think education children. My children started learning about money when they were young. Like my daughter had a compound interest class when she was in 6th grade. So, I mean, just you just don't know what you don't know. And then people are like, "Is this real?" I'm like, yeah, these things have been in place for over like 100 to 200,
Yeah.
250, 300 years. So that's how the wealthy stay wealthy. We're just another cat's out the bag and you can't put it
Yeah.
back.
It's beautiful when you see a child doing it because I just had a story. My niece told my sister-in-law. She said, "Okay, why are you picking the expensive lollipop?" And she's like, "Because if you buy this one, you get 12, so it really turns out to be $2 a pop. Versus if you buy this one that's cheaper, you get less." And I'm like, "Who is this girl?" So it's so beautiful to see that in children and that they can really, do the math. And why wouldn't you buy them the more expensive one after that, right? So
Mhm.
getting really smart on that. Thank you, Melanie. For me, I think, like you, Dr. Shannon, I'm really going into this AI space and learning so much about how to create things that are good for everybody.
Mhm.
And so I think I'm trying to do a more of an identity piece for people, skill that they can ask questions and kind of fill it out and kind of putting that together in language and really understanding their brand through that space. So if you guys have anybody that wants a lesson, right now they are free because I am also trying to learn things. But that's kind of where my business is going next. It's really learning about identity and how do you really go deep and ask these questions that before, you had to do a one-on-one, but now you can just go it through with questions or an app or things like that. So I'm still kind of figuring all that out. But we have been on here for over an hour and a half, and I thank all of you. This has been incredibly amazing.
Thank you.
And to all the listeners, you have to get the book. It's an amazing book with amazing stories. I will be putting the link everywhere, and so please, if you were excited about one of the stories or all of the stories, you will get all of it in one. Or if you need somebody's services here, they all have very unique, or we all have very unique, different capacities and understanding. So please reach out to all of us or any of us if you want more information. And I thank you, all of you authors, now that you are an official author. Some of you are second authors, third authors. And I appreciate all of you and we'll continue on.
Well, we appreciate you too,
yeah,
Yamilca, for
it's been
putting this together and being able to do this for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. And then your video was amazing too. I saw it.
All
been
right.
a
Thank
pleasure
you,
Thank you,
meeting
everybody.
you all.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Me too.